Hello again, everyone. This is Gilmer, and this is episode number 5. I think we skipped the number 3, but I'm not going to go back and try to fix that numbering issue. We're just going to forge ahead and say this is episode number 5. I did want to cover something before we get really started. I'm going to hold off for now on Grand Tactician videos because I'll probably do one. I'll probably do one on Saturday morning, but I'm not going to do one tonight. I just installed a big update, and I lost my game from before, so I'd just be starting a new one. And I think I'm going to do some actual battles, some historical battles, and see how that works, and just kind of talk us through one of those while we're going through the menus and everything like that, because if they're gonna do because this patch was 500 megabytes or 450 megabytes. It was a pretty big uh, patch, if you ask me, and so I'm just gonna hold off on having a campaign for a little while and just see if things kind of settle down a little bit. So anyway, I did want to get back to Pride of Nations. I haven't played this in a couple of weeks, but I do remember what we were doing. As you can see, this is the state of Oklahoma for Pride of Nations, and then they have these little colonial type hats. They're kind of the same hat. I think it's what they call one of those pith helmets or whatever they are for that you'd see on colonial type people or soldiers in the British Army. Maybe, I don't know, but that's the only time I've ever seen them was in movies where the English were in Africa for some reason or another. But they're these little helmets with the little, and it's on the splash screen of Pride of Nations when you first open it up. So uh, they have these little helmets, and whenever you play a decision on something, you get one of these if it's the colonial type decision. And as you can see, we have 3 here in this Cherokee, Oklahoma, and one of them is Colonial School, one of them is Sam Missionary, and one of them is Colonial Merchants. This one, Immigrants to Colony. I was available, or it was available to play on this one or this region, but it was available to play on this region, and so some of these take a pretty good while. And if you're noticing, I did play several turns off video because there's not really a lot of things going on, and I want to get to the point where some of these actually start firing off, which this one says 5 turns. It says Colonial Trading Post. Colonial Trading Post. Let's see. Colonial Merchant, Sam Missionary, 5 turns. United States Colonial School. And then I also decided I wanted to start focusing in on Minnesota as well, because I think it was the next state to be incorporated into a state. And so we have a little cowboy hat down here. It says Military Expedition, Prosecute. You can only play that when you actually have a military unit in the region, which we do with this. If I were to move him out, this would just disappear, and I'd get a message saying this decision is no longer valid because you have to have military in that region while it's going on for the total amount of turns that this decision has been played for. So as you can see, it says decision was added 3 turns ago and ends in 9 turns. So we got to leave this guy here for 9 more turns. And something I probably never really talked about too much, or maybe I did or maybe I didn't. The Grand Campaign that starts from 1850 has 1,680 turns, and that is 70 years times 24 turns. And so, as you can imagine, that's a really long game, and that's part of the reason why I mentioned that I probably will not play the whole Grand Campaign, because if you think about it, 1,680 turns, and there's only 365 days in a year. So I'd have to play, what, five turns a day to finish this in a year. So that's probably not going to happen, and I'm probably going to play some turns offline or off video just because we want to do them a lot quicker. And when I'm taping, I go a lot slower because I don't think anybody really wants me to just whip right through everything. Some things that have happened that happened off video is some of my railroads have completed. If you remember, we had this icon on a lot of these states where they have now a actual acting railroad system. These still have a couple of turns left before they finish up. It did finish here, so if you wanted to move from Springfield to St. Louis, you could take the train. But if you want to move from this region, which is eastern Illinois, it looks like you would not be able to use the train. So actually, one of the missions that I think you get is they ask you to connect the coasts with a railroad. So that happens probably after some of these others kind of fire off, and you don't have any, might not have any active missions. You might get a mission that says, do the Transcontinental Railroad. And that probably also has something to do with when you get every state in between. You get a contiguous ownership of states in between the East Coast and the West Coast. Oops. So let's see. Colonial merchants and missionary colonial trade. Immigrants to colony. And so let's take a look out here, because I also played one of these, or maybe two or three, on Hawaii, because it is considered, what does it say, highest level of colonial status. This is the third from the bottom. It says United States of America influenced territory. So so I've put on here a local chief treaty. It's a cowboy hat, a black cowboy hat, and then a pith helmet. I'm not sure if I'm getting that right, but I think I am. A pith helmet for colonial merchants. I'm just trying to up the what's called the colonial penetration, which is represented by the number fourth from the bottom where it says United States of America, 26% CP, SOI max change 5, SOI current change 1. So we're trying to get that high enough that we can actually say, okay, we can play a decision card, which is, let's just see. Eventually we can play a card that says a protectorate, which is the step right before declaring it a formal colony, and then at some point you can declare it a state. So it's kind of a progression there. And actually I could probably check and see. Let's see, where are we? That's Minnesota. So we can actually place a formal colony on this. And can we do it to Oklahoma as well? No, we can't. So I don't know if that formal colony means it's covering the whole thing, but I think it does. And so it says this full region is ours, and it's in colonial status. And even though we really didn't treat it the same, in my opinion, as what you would call the colonies in Africa and India that other nations had in this game, it is being treated basically as a colony, as a colonial type thing, similar to what's going on in Africa and India and other places. So I decided to pay a lot of attention to these and see if we can't start getting these turned into states, because that is a huge prestige bump for us when we are able to actually declare a state. So I've actually talked a lot, but we can go through some of these messages. New government measures available for your country for the current year. Increased social protection. So what does that mean? Send troops, electoral census, referendum, and plebiscites. Increased social protection. This decree costs the state 200. That's cash. That's this right here, money. Wow, I thought we had more than that. I thought we had 400. But anyway, and a loss of 1,000 in private capital, but it allows you to reduce the militancy by an average of -3. Opposite effect for upper class and aristocrats. New measure decreases militancy variable according to classes. Renewable, but can only be taken once a year. So I can't do it right now because it costs 200, and I don't necessarily know where I would play that, even if I did have the money to play it. So here we go. Soldiers have been successfully trained. So it sounds like this one, the 7th and the 8th and the 9th Missouri. Let's just take a look at that. So that's 3,100 men, and this gives you all sorts of little information about your elements of your army. Has 3 officers. I don't know. I think this might be how long it takes to actually produce this unit if you were to build it. And down here it says regular infantry regiment, and then it gives you the dates for its level of technology, I guess is what you'd say. So whatever rifles were used between 1850 and 1870, that's what he carries, and it affects things like offensive fire, defensive fire, range, that type of thing, and rate of fire, and stuff like that. So if this was to say 1880 to 1895 or 1900, then he would have a better gun, is basically what it's telling you. And you can upgrade that, and how you upgrade that is, if I can find it. Oh, I found it, and then I lost it. There we go. How you upgrade that is by finding one of these that actually covers that. I don't see anything that actually covers that. That's naval technologies, industry, land army technologies, military doctrines. If you click on it, it'll tell you some information about it. And I think that it's possible we need to pass one of those congressional decisions, get the Congress to pass something about military decorations, which we've looked at before. See, military decoration. That's actually what that is. That's its name. So military decorations would improve your military to a certain extent. So if we just go down through here, see how it says bronze muzzle loaded artillery and percussion cap muskets. Since we've already actually research this, we don't worry about it. That's what our guys are carrying right now, 1850 to 1870. But eventually we'll get a chance to upgrade that, and also light armaments. This item doesn't add modifiers to your nation. This item has been mastered. So, as you can see, you need to have these two technologies completely done and before you can get to this. But it also, some other things come into play as well, but I'm not exactly sure what each one, what you need to do to get to that point. So anyway, we have finished building a railroad in Panhandle and Sangamon. And we click this. It's Panhandle. There it is, Panhandle. So we finished the railroad in Panhandle, and then also in Sangamon, which is where Springfield, Illinois is located. So then we completely understand how to harness the possibilities of professionalism, and we have learned the basic principles of flag signaling, and you can now begin to research it fully. That's naval. Flag signaling is naval. Most of you probably know that. Before we had, radios and things like that, the Navy used flags to send signals within the task force. I don't really see very much going on here. It looks like population satisfaction has been modified on average by 0.46%. That's good. And this tells us some of the things going on around the world. The proposed commercial agreement initiated by Austria has been agreed upon by Baden. And Baden is a German state, one of those smaller states. And this is before Germany has consolidated. This is before Prussia actually formed Germany with all of the certain German states that actually agreed to form Germany with them. Austria was left out, and that's partly because Otto von Bismarck didn't want Austria in Germany because he felt like they might. I don't know. I don't know exactly what his thoughts were, but I think he was afraid that they would kind of control everything because Austria was fairly powerful in the 1800s, and so he didn't want to allow that to happen. So they were excluded from the new German Empire. The Ottoman Empire, and I know a lot of this stuff. I probably don't know half as much as I should know about it. So obviously you guys can correct me whenever you want to. I've been corrected so many times on so many things. To me it's literally impossible to remember everything. Some people might be able to do it. I can't. I was looking at an older video and somebody was explaining to me what VD meant on a airplane in one of the War in the West or War in the East or whatever. I think it was War in the West. He was explaining what the designation VD was. Well, I had no clue, and I don't even remember asking them to tell me, but he let me know. And those are things that a lot of us don't know. I would imagine, because I certainly didn't know it. And I've been playing war games for about 15 years now, I guess. So okay, been talking enough. Let's save my turn and process a turn. As you can see, that's it. We started the turn with 404 money and 2,089, it looks like, maybe, of capital. and we spent a lot of that placing colonial decisions on our territories around the U.S. and what was always called the old West, or the West. I mean, Minnesota, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas. That was considered the West for a long time, and I guess that's why they still call it the Midwest, because it's kind of a holdover from when they used to think of it as the western part of the U.S. and before we acquired California from Spain in the Spanish American War. And I know I've talked a lot on this video, but this is the kind of game it's more about talking and explaining things, because there's so many things going on, as opposed to other games where you're just saying, okay, this is how I formed my army, this is who's commanding it, this is why I'm moving it here or moving it there, here's a battle, and this is what happened. There's a lot more going on than just that. So it takes a little bit more of talking, and I apologize if you don't like to hear me talk as much, but it has to be done at some point, because if I didn't, I'd just be playing the game and everybody be saying, well, what the hell are you doing? I don't understand what you're doing. A lot of people would, maybe not everybody. The Parliament of Belgium has rejected the government proposal for roads networks. Belgium has instaured general conscription. Installed? Maybe that's installed or passed. The upkeep of my units, 21 state money, 4 manufactured goods, 4 conscripts, 1 officer. Transport ships, brought in some stuff. The wealth of capital in your country has led to the emergence of a new businessman. He managed to close a deal of non-petroleum for £100. And we've talked about this. I guess it's because, well, what I'm talking about is everything is listed in pounds, and this game was developed by men, or programmers, the Asiad people, and they're from France. But I guess because in the 1800s, England controlled so much of the world, everything was talked about in terms of pounds when they were talking about currency, because now everybody uses the dollar, but that might change sometime in the future because of China, and everybody might talk in yuan, if that's how you pronounce it. But everything, I wouldn't say everything is discussed in terms of dollars, because obviously in the EU everybody talks about the euro dollar, and of course in Great Britain they still have the British sterling pound, I believe, and a couple other places. Switzerland still has the French, or I think they call it the Swiss franc, and so everybody has their own currency. But of course, if you were to have everybody's different currency in here, then you'd have to start doing exchange rates and everything else. So I'm sure that's part of the reason why they didn't do it. Population satisfaction was modified on an average of plus 0.47%. A group of colonists from France have left to find a new life in Senegal. Interesting. Military forces from France have begun a campaign to suppress rebels in Comoros. I don't know where that is. We can click that though. So that is, we zoom out here. Okay, that is on the east side of Africa, just above what I think is Madagascar, or not just above, but to the northwest of Madagascar. Some some islands there, so they're suppressing the rebels there or suppressing the native forces in Orania. So that's here. They're suppressing the natives in northern Africa because France had colonies in North Africa. If you didn't know about that, that's why a lot of nations in northern Africa also speak French, and it's also why Vietnam, a lot of people in Vietnam still speak French because that was a French colony for a long time as well. And then they left, and then that's when the U.S. got in there, and now nobody's in there but the Vietnamese. And that's all we're going to say about that. So, here we go. Missionaries from the United States of America have opened schools for the natives in Oklahoma. Our agents report that the United States of America is negotiating a treaty with Hawaii, and then you have one of these descriptions that was never really fixed. It still has the old description placeholder as opposed to the actual, what it should say. It probably should say, something in whatever territory was played, and the negotiations are ongoing, and blah, blah, blah. Instead, you get that, a string message. Let's see. So, really there's not much going on. I do want to look at declare formal colony ends in 7 turns. Okay. So since I have 164 money, I think I am going to, I guess I could where is it? Economic. Okay, those are fort upgrades. This is a depot and a depot extension. 16 days are remaining on that. Let's see. Railroad. And that got us down to 1600. That's okay. So you got 1680 turns. You got plenty of time to do a lot of this stuff. When I first got the game, the Indians, you could go to war with the Indians, but it was real hard to win a war against them. It basically would settle down into almost a stalemate, and nothing really happened. And it would say you're at war, and you couldn't sign a treaty because you weren't really getting anywhere with them. So eventually I think they adjusted it so that you can take over these territories without actually going to war with the Indians, but I think that they can attack you and basically go to war with you, and then you do have to fight the war. But if they don't and they just let themselves be pushed out, then you can just take over the state, I want to say quote unquote peacefully, but you're still pushing them out, and they still very much resent it. And they probably still float around out there, probably thinking, should I attack these people or not? So we're up to 254 money. Let's see what's going on. Some kind of raiders are roaming the Indonesian archipelago. So that's basically about pirates. And Germany has, looks like, passed general conscription as well. So wait a minute. I thought... Germany hasn't formed yet, so I'm not really sure why it says Germany. Let me see here. Yeah. So you got Bavaria, Württemberg, Hessen, Darmstadt, Hessen-Kassel, Thuringen. Oh, wait a minute, that's part of Prussia. Saxony, Hanover. All of these states actually eventually formed Germany. So I don't know why this says Germany has passed. I think that's what that means, general conscription. That's probably, they probably mean Prussia has. The upkeep in units in the field, 63. We started a railroad. And starting a railroad can piss off the, it can make the Indians angry as well, starting a railroad. Anything you do in a territory that the Indians live in can set them off. It can make them angry. We've consumed 23 units of coal. Seems like we're doing all right on coal. Let's just take a look. 445, 450. So we are increasing our coal. And coal is very important because it runs your railroads and it also runs your boats or your ships, your fleet, your navy. So at some point we are going to probably have to try to start building. And it might be right now for all I know, but it's see how this is all green, and then this is no, that's yeah, that's allegiance. But anyway, this I think is it. So see how we don't really own this or this or this or this in parts over here. They're considered Indian territory and they own it. But there are some places around here where you can build coal mines, and that we might have to do that. That's what I was trying to get at. Is at some point we are going to have to build coal mines. Prussia has declared war against the Netherlands. Well, that'll be interesting to keep up with. Great Britain is extending the telegraph. This territory ongoing thing. A merchant company from Prussia is building a trading post in Samoa. I don't necessarily know that should be. I guess it is Samoa. I guess it is German. Because that eventually becomes American. But maybe that happens after World War I or World War II. Probably after World War I. Because I think that was when the German Empire was kind of broken up. We gained a total of 3 prestige points from our colonial territories. Great Britain is 5. They're kicking our butt when it comes to generating prestige points, but yeah. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for staying loyal. And if you're just finding this channel, if you want to subscribe, that's great. I'd don't make any money off of this. I don't monetize anything. So it's just me doing it for the sheer fun of playing these games. I really love them. And I think if I'm not going to do Grand Tactician for a little while, or maybe I'll do one Saturday morning, then what I'll do is I might start another playthrough of one of the other Asia type games. And I think I might want to go back and revisit Birth of Nation or Birth of America. Wait a minute, what was that? Wars in America, Birth of I don't Birth of something, Wars in America 2, Birth of America 2, Wars in America, something like that. I might want to go back to it because there's something about it. It's like it digs at me that I could not figure out how to play that game at the time, and I think if I go back to it, I'll have a lot more perspective and know a lot more about what's going on with it. So I might do a lot better. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I will be back soon. Stay tuned.